morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started here in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in about 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in about a minute and a half. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in a little over a minute. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in about a minute. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in about 30 seconds. Just around 30 seconds. Start here in a few seconds here. Okay, we'll get started. Today, I want to talk about the science of presentation, how to give contagious talks. But this is not just about group, focus groups or seminars or webinars or whatever, because do I encourage you to conduct seminars the exact same way I encourage you to conduct one-on-ones? Yes, I do. So this applies to whether you are meeting one-on-one with some people or if you're in a presentation, because even in a group presentation, you want to act like you're talking to an individual. If you want appointments, you have to act like you're talking to an individual. You're not there to put on a show, you're there to communicate. So all of this applies to both one-on-one meetings, like the 21-point checklist or the FI presentation or whatever, and also to group presentations. And I've gathered this information from Advanced Presentations by Design, Persuasive Advertising, and the Wharton School of Business on communication. So how do you structure your talk? How do you structure your talk? Well, first of all, you have to let people know what this talk is going to be about. So what do we do in the introduction for the 21-point checklist? Obviously, the 21-point checklist, in my opinion, is the most important meeting you're going to have. So, and we'll discuss that a little bit later in this meeting. But what are we trying to do, or what is our agenda? What do we have the client tell us that we're here to do today on a 21-point checklist in the introduction? We need the client to tell us what. What's our agenda? Is our agenda we're here to get you to move away all your money to me, is our agenda. We're here to get you to understand that your guy is a jerk. Is our agenda, I'm here to show you all the good things that you can do. So what's our agenda in that first meeting? What's the introduction? The introduction says what? We're here to find about we're here to show you what you have, and then you're going to tell me what you like about what you have, and you're going to tell me what you don't like about what you have. Because there's no sense in me coming up with solutions until I know what you like, what you have. I'm not going to make the assumption that you don't like anything and come up with a whole bunch of solutions. Because if I make an assumption you don't like anything and come up with a whole bunch of solutions, what does that mean? If I spent hours coming up with solutions for you, what am I going to be tempted to do? Guys, answer this. If I spend hours coming up with assumptions, assuming that they don't like anything, and I come with spend hours coming up with solutions, what am I going to attempt to do? They say they like everything, and maybe just going to say, okay, and flush all that work down the toilet? No. I'm going to say, I did all this work. I might as well go ahead and show it to them. So it means I'm going to go ahead and tell it to them. So we get them to tell us at the introduction, hey, there will be no solutions here because I don't know what you like and don't like. Once I know what you like and what you don't like at the end of this meeting, then our next meeting, I'll start addressing the things that you don't like. No sense addressing the things you like. I'll start addressing the things you don't like. So folks, what am I going to have any solutions at the end of the meeting? No. Why not? because you know what I like and don't like. Now, here's the great thing. You've done so many things right. I go through all the things they've done right. So any change we need to make would be hard and complicated or easy and simple. Easy and simple. So that's the agenda we set with a 21-point checklist. Does that make sense? Also, when we get into the actual arguments, and again, when they say arguments, they mean points you want to make. It's not like you're going to argue with people. It's about the points you want to make. A strong point is statements that are backed up by reasons, facts, examples related to the topic. So I would say statements, sure, but who's going to make the statement? With the 20-point checklist, who needs to make the statement? Should I be saying anything? Should I make anything? Should I tell, sell, preach, or teach? Should I make a single statement in the 21-point checklist? No. So I'm going to ask questions so the client can give me statements that are backed by reasons, facts, and examples related to topics. Do we use facts in our presentation, in a 21-point checklist? Am I constantly bringing up third-party validations for everything that we're having them discover? Yes. Do I ever give a personal opinion in a 21-point checklist? No. Do I ever give a personal opinion in a fixed index annuity presentation? No. Do I ever give an opinion? No, because that is telling, selling, preaching, or teaching. Giving them an opinion is all that. So we have them discover and give us statements that are backed by reasons, facts, and examples related to topics. And we'll talk about that here in a second. I was going to jump into something. If we only discuss the disadvantages of our Eat Air suite, we've not balanced our argument. Sugar in sweets damages teeth and can cause health problems. Is that a balanced argument? So let me ask you a question. Do we give them a balanced argument in the 21-point checklist? We use a certain template. If you go look at every single item in the 21-point checklist, we use the template. We first have them define what that thing is. So if we'll use diversification for an example. So first of all, I'd say we go through what diversification is, which means, and we have them tell us what correlation is. It means that things either act or don't like to act together. And then I say, and why do you want to do that? And so you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So not one thing's going to go down. All of them things will go. Exactly. And you have one or many investments. We have many investments. So kudos to you. You understand the importance of correlation. See, now what did I do? If you look at all the templates, I pat them on the back. The first thing I do is have them define what we're talking about. Then I tell them that whatever they did was good. And then and only then do I have them discover that what they thought they had was bad. Look at bonds. So why do people invest in bonds? Because they're conservative. We can't have all of our money in stocks because that's dangerous. Right. So we need to have some of our money in what? Growth. Some of our money in what? Guaranteed. Right. Guaranteed. So why do you have money in bonds? Well, because we need that guaranteed money. Exactly. So then I've complimented them on the fact that know that they need to have some money in guaranteed. And that's the reason for the bonds. Then I'm going to have them discover that, what I was told, which was that bonds were safe, is not actually true. See, so we always start out with good, and then we have them discover the bad. So do we balance with the 21-point checklist? Every single one of those scripts, that's how we do it. That's the template. Have them define what the thing is, tell them what's good about it, and then have them discover that what they thought they had is not what they had. That make sense? Also, we use indirect conclusions for new conclusions. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Do I ever tell them how great I am? Do I ever brag about the letters behind my name? Do I ever brag about how much my clients love me? Do I ever brag about how much I communicate with my clients? Do I ever brag at all about me? No. I let them draw their own conclusions on that by what? By action. Do I ever tell them, do I ever utter a single syllable, utter a single sound about their current advisor, saying that he's a bad advisor? Do I ever call their advisor a bad advisor, hint that he's a bad advisor, use any form of, no, I don't. That's right, Dale. I do not. I let them draw their own conclusions. So how do we get them to draw their own conclusions? Very simple. We use motivational interviewing. we leave them to water. We do. But we don't make them drink. We then ask them questions until they discover for themselves that, oh, I should be drinking. Oh, my guy's taking advantage of me. Oh, my guy's hiding things from me so he can make more money on me, and it's putting me in a worse situation. So we let them draw their conclusions. We do not tell, sell, preach, or teach. We ask open questions so that they can draw their own conclusions. Because when they draw their own conclusions, they don't get buyer's remorse. When they draw their own conclusions, they'll move their money even if they're going on vacation in 2 days. If they draw their own conclusions, the deal is done. If you sell them, guess what happens? You do a fantastic job of selling them. You tell, sell, preach, or teach, and they think, this is what I need to do. He's convinced me that I need to do this. And then what happens? What happens as soon as they leave your office? If you're the one that convinced them, what happens as soon as they leave your office? They start second-guessing themselves. They start coming up with reasons why they should not move forward. Now, if they tell themselves, that doesn't happen. If you tell them, you've done a fantastic job, it starts to unwind the second they leave your office. So they must draw their own conclusions. And you should use a single theme to tie the talk together. So, I'm going to ask the easy one first. What's the theme we use in the 21-point checklist? What's the theme we use in the 20-point checklist? Over and over and over. Because we're not covering 21 things. We're covering the same thing 21 times. We're covering the same thing from 21 different directions. We're covering the same thing sometimes very directly and sometimes very indirectly. What are we covering in that first meeting? Or it's not in the first meeting, in the 21-point checklist. That their guy is taking advantage of them, is hiding things from them that made their guy more money and made them less money. That's the theme, over and over and over. We start out with any advisor doesn't do this is a bad advisor. Then any company that does this is a bad company. And then we get right to any advisor does this. That this not only is any advisor, my advisor is a bad advisor. So we go right, the whole thing is directed right at that same theme over and over and over. Now, here's a tricky question. What's our theme at an FIA presentation? What's our theme at an FIA presentation? Our theme at the FIA presentation is, here's what you currently have, equities, whether it's managed money, mutual funds, or whatever it may be. Here's what you currently have in equities. Here's what's possible. Neither one of these things is perfect, but which one do you think is better? So the theme for the FIA presentation is, here's what you have, here's what you could have, which one do you want? That's the theme, over and over and over. Over and over and over. Let's talk about return. This is what you have. This is how it acts when the market goes up, goes down, sideways. This is what you could have. This is how it acts when the market goes up, down, sideways. Which one is better? Why? By how much? Oh, this is liquidity. This is how much your current one has in liquidity. This is the one that you could have with liquidity. Which one is more liquid? This is a fee. This is the fees you're paying now. This is the fees that you could be paying. Which one is better when it comes to fees? Did you see how having the same thing over and over and over is how you get people to make it? If you throw too many things at them, they won't move. They won't move. And preparation is the key. Preparation is the key. Rehearse out loud. So when you're practicing the 21-point checklist, when you're practicing the FIA presentation, you're doing a seminar, when you practice a seminar, you need to do it out loud. You cannot read it over and over in your head. You have to say it out loud. You need to record yourself. That's the way you know it. That you know that you know it backwards and forwards, and that you know it not so you get it right, but so you can't get it wrong. You need to get it down so that you cannot get it wrong. Because will clients throw you curveballs? Yes. And if you don't know this thing backwards and forwards, that'll get you off track. Now we do have, I encourage you to use your crib notes in your pasted to your 21-point checklist. So if you do get thrown off track, you can easily get back on there. But again, you want to learn it backwards and forwards. And I'm, again, not proud of this. I've talked to you about it before. But when I was in the Navy, we drank a little too much. And what we would do is we'd practice doing our ABCs backwards, completely drunk, and walking a straight line with our looking up in the air, touching our nose, completely drunk. So we could do it completely drunk. Now, I'm not proud of that fact. But the fact is, if we were ever pulled over, guess what? We would pass those tests. That's how well you need to know these scripts. Okay? Dress like a grown man. So give me some ideas. I'm not so great at how women should dress, but I do know how men should dress for power, for confidence, etc. So people instantly know that they can trust you. Give me some ideas of what you should and should not do when you dress. And I'm sorry if this offends you guys, but you're here to make more money. So you need to, if you want to make more money, you need to present yourself as a grown man to project confidence. So what kind of things should you do and not do? Yes, Tom, polished shoes. Number one, you need to have a great pair of shoes. No scuff on your shoes. No. Don't wear tennies. Don't wear tennies. Don't wear tennies. I wear tennies everywhere. Would I ever wear them in front of a client? No. Will my clients wear tennis shoes? No. No, no, no. You should always dress how? How should you dress? Now, I'm not going to be wearing a $7,000 suit, $700 shoes, and going to see a client that's wearing, just came from pickleball. No, that's. But you should always dress just one level higher than your client. So you should have a good pair of shoes. What's another thing? Grooming. No dandruff. Beards are very well groomed. Hair is very well groomed. Fingernails are very well groomed. You need to do that. Something you should not do, quit wearing jewelry. Take your jewelry off. Take your necklaces off. This is for men. Take your necklaces off. Take your bracelets off. What do you think when you see a man with a bracelet or a necklace? What's the first thing that pops in your head? Come on, give me some. I don't care about what's the first thing that pops into your head when you see a man with bracelets or a necklace on. That's not absolutely true. What do you think? Gambler, gangster, player. Is that the kind of mentality you want them to have? So if you don't wear your jewelry, will they have any opinion of you when it comes to jewelry? No. But my jewelry is very tasteful. No. No. No pinky rings. No bracelets. And I'm not talking about big gold bracelets. I'm even talking about little woven friendship bracelets. Take that crap off. You want to be a blank canvas so they can make their decision based on you, not on some accessory that you're wearing. And make sure your pants fit. The waist size fits and the length fits. There's nothing that says somebody's dumpy more than pants that are too long or pants that are too short. And wear some gosh darn socks. Guys, I don't care. I don't care what you wear or not at the office. Quit showing up at the office without socks. These are just simple things. So I'm not going to go any more, but I highly encourage you to go online and say, how can I dress for power? How can I dress for respect? How can I dress for whatever? Because what a silly thing to lose a deal that has nothing to do with your skill level, has nothing to do with what you have to offer, but is simply based on a opinion the client makes of you because of how you're dressed or look. Okay? This is a pet peeve of mine. Give yourself plenty of time and take it easy. Give yourself plenty of time and take it easy. What I mean by that is this. I've seen fantastic 21-point checklists, and also fantastic presentations unwind because guess what happens at the end? Oh my gosh, we've been at this too long. I'm running out of time. I need to rush. And what do people remember? Do they remember the beginning, the middle, or the end? They remember the end. So like at a public presentation, when you start hurrying up, people are like, oh, they're no longer, when you start hurrying up, they're like, oh, presentation must be ending pretty soon, they start packing up in their head as well. See, you're hurrying. They're like, oh, presentation's ending. I'm going to go ahead and pack up. So they're no longer listening to you. And guys, your pitch is the end. So if you have to cut that, and how would you know that's the case? Because remember earlier we said, rehearse out loud. That's how you know you're going to run long. If you're running long, cut stuff out of the middle. Don't rush the end. Cut stuff out of the middle. Don't rush the end. What if you're at a 21-point checklist and they have to leave in the middle? Or they say, I have to leave in 15 minutes. Do you rush, or do you say, okay, let's stop it right here and we'll get back together? You stop it and get back together, and then you just rehearse, you just regurgitate what you did the first time much more quickly, and then get into what you haven't covered yet the next time you get together. Do not rush. Do not rush. Do not rush, ever. And if you practice out loud, you'll know how long things take, and then you won't have to rush. And you're always better off cutting out information, giving less information, than rushing because you're running out of time. When you're presenting a talk, you have to do so with purpose. You have to have a structure. Here's an example of what a structure is, what it is, what it could be. Hey, this is how about FIA? Here's what it is. Here's what your current, here's how what you have operates with the markets up, down, and sideways. Here's how it could be. Here's how what you have operates when it comes to liquidity. Here's what it could be. Here's how what you have right now operates when it comes to fees. Here's what it could be. Here, 21-point checklist. Here's what you have right now. This is what your bonds are supposed to be safe. Here's what you have right now. Here's what it could have been. So you're paying more and getting less. Here's a correlation. We use this, guys. All of this is put. You don't have to take the information I'm giving you and then try to create something. I spent 2 years for myself and an additional 2 or 3 years when I started training guys, building a thing that's perfect. So you do not have to go and build it yourself. All this stuff is incorporated in what we already do. Provide support for each point. Do we do this, guys? Do we provide a third-party support for every point we make? For powers of attorney, do we provide the Social Security document that shows that their power of attorney will not work with Social Security? For correlation, do we show them the correlation table? For risk reward, do we show them the risk reward graph? We have support for each of these points. Visuals, again, we have visuals, right? Whether we're doing a presentation or whether we're using all the third-party resources. I always keep visuals simple and easy for readability for the audience. Now, some of the visuals we use in the 21-point checklist are not all that simple and easy, but we have to use them because that's all the third party has. So how much time then do I have them explain to me how a correlation table works? Do I explain it to them, or do I take all the time necessary in the world for them to explain it to me? The risk reward chart, do I spend a lot of time covering that for them, or do I spend all the time they need in the world so they can cover it for me, explain to me how it works? Because we have to use a little bit more complicated charts and visuals, we have to spend extra time having them tell us how those visuals work. Because if you're explaining how the visuals work and they're nodding, yep, do you see that? Do you understand? Does that make sense? Nope. They just don't want to look stupid. They're just saying yes because they don't want to look stupid. They don't really mean yes, I get it. And even if they do get it, if you do all the explaining, guess how quickly they forget it when they walk out of the office. But if you have them explain it to you, guess how long, first of all, you know they get it, you know they agree with it, and thirdly, they are going to remember it when they walk out of the office. Use color for meaning. I'm a little iffy on this, but sure, there's some psychological meaning to colors. Speaking. If you're doing a public presentation, only have one speaker. Never have a guest speaker attorney. Never have a guest speaker accountant. Never have, if you're have a partnership, you don't both share the presentation. Because what happens is all of the momentum the first speaker builds up goes away when the next speaker comes on. And then that speaker has to start all over. Also, if you have another professional speaking, what is it just said about you? They should talk to you, or they should talk to that professional. Now, you can have the professional there to validate everything you're doing, to share clients, etc. But there is only one speaker at public presentations. Set a moderate pace. I talk super fast. I do not enunciate very well. How do I correct that, guys? How do I make sure that I speak at the correct, there's two different ways I do it. How do I make sure that I speak at the correct speed? And how do I make sure I'm enunciating? How do I do that? How do I make sure that I do that? I do it two different ways. What would you guess? We've already covered one of them a couple of times. I rehearse out loud. Second of all, in the heat of the moment, I would have Missy in the back of the room, and if I was going too fast, she'd be back there waving at me and giving me the slow down symbol. So you have your person in the back of the room communicating to you on how you're speaking. It must be at a moderate pace. Now, you don't want to be monotone and a singular speed. No, sometimes I should be speaking fast. Sometimes I should speak really, really slow. And sometimes I should speak loud. And then sometimes I should speak like this. You're on stage. Do I only do that in a large presentation, or do that one-on-one with people too? That's how I communicate all the time. Why? Because you're telling a story. How often are stories told like this, and then we should cover this, and then we're going to go this, and do you see it, how that works there? And why would that happen? How long before they're checked out? You need to surprise them. And again, how do you learn to do that? There's lots of tools out there to learn to do that. But most importantly, you need to record yourself to make sure you are doing that. Keep your tone cool, calm, and stay confident. Now, I am adversarial. I have a very hot temper. I have somebody says something I don't like, boom. I'm at them. I'm at their throat. It comes from the Napoleon complex of being small and having to fight for fight for everything in life. So that does not work well with the clients, because our clients, even when we do things right, are you going to get objections? Yes. So my first knee-jerk reaction is to argue with them, show them that they're wrong. They just said I was wrong. I don't like when people say wrong. I'm going to let them know. I'm going to show them how smart I am. I'm going to show them smarter than them. That's my first reaction. How do I prevent myself from doing that? Instead, stay cool, calm, and confident. How do I do that? What's the first word out of my mouth when somebody says something I don't like? What's the first word out of my mouth when somebody says something I don't like? Yeah, Tom says that you agree with him, and my word is absolutely. If you ever hear me say absolutely, it means whoever just said something, I don't agree with them. But before I put my foot in my mouth and start arguing, I have created a habit of saying absolutely when somebody says something I don't like. Now, in real life, I do not do that. In real life, I argue. In real life, I do everything because I don't really give a crap in real life. Take me, leave me, like me, hate me, I don't care. But when there's money on the line, I put on my game hat, and when somebody says something I don't like, I say absolutely. I'm extremely disciplined when money's on the table, or when something I care about is on the table. But if it's something I don't care about, I revert right back to how I always act, which is argumentative, judgmental, my way or the highway. How did I get to that point that I could be cool, calm? 15-minute drill, 15-minute drill, 15-minute drill. So I do it with energy, interest, and forceful language. Yeah, when I say absolutely, that's energy, that's interest, that's forceful language. Pause just before and after. You say the important point. Do I use pregnant pauses, guys? Do I teach you to use pregnant pauses? If you ever read an email of mine, I use the ... an awful lot. I use 1, 2, 3s an awful lot. I use bullets an awful lot. How do I do that when I'm talking to somebody? I don't say, first thing we need to talk about it, and number 2, number 3, or next bullet, next bullet, next bullet. No, I don't say and no, how do I do that? When I make a point and I want them to understand that point, I will pause. Then I'll make the next point and I'll pause. And then I'll make the next point and I pause. That's my verbal bullet. So they can assimilate each of the points before moving on to the next point. Does that make sense? Again, check for understanding. How do we do that? We say who, what, where, when, how. Guys, would we ever get in trouble? Of course, you should be recording your meetings with the client's permission. So could we ever get in trouble from a family? And this has happened way too often, where advisors will move money and then later on they find out that the person that they were working with was not, didn't have all of their faculties about them. Would we ever sell anything to anybody that was not 100% all there in their faculties? No. Why? Because we don't sell them, first of all. And second of all, how many people who did not have all the faculties could answer our who, what, where, when, why, how questions? None of them. We would never be able to be held accountable. And when you record your meetings, you'll never be sued. Why? Because you've got your you got your tape there. If somebody's going to try to sue you, the attorneys are going to look at that tape or listen to that tape that you're going to provide, and it's going to say, folks, we have nothing here. You are not going to win this case. This guy did nothing wrong. In fact, he didn't even tell the client to do anything. The client decided, your mom and dad decided for themselves. He didn't push it. So asking who, what, where, and how keeps you out of trouble. It makes sure they understand. It makes sure they agree. It makes sure they remember. And it keeps you out of trouble. What strong eye contact signals to others? You gotta have eye contact, and you'd be amazed if you videotape yourself how little eye contact you have. When we would do advanced sales trainings and have our top guys come back and we would do training, they would all insist that they had fantastic eye contact. And when we would videotape them, we'd ask, how's your eye contact? They'd say fantastic, and everybody would burst out laughing because looking at the video, their eye contact sucked. You need to work at eye contact. Repeat key points. Do I repeat myself over and over and over? Yes, I do. Or I should say that better. Do I ask the same question over and over and over to the client so the clients can make the point over and over and over? Yes. Yes, not in the exact same way, but I'll ask the question this way, then ask the question that way, then ask the question that way, and then ask a review question. Why? Because the more times they say it to themselves, the more true it is. It's an important point. Make sure they repeat it to themselves. And again, using who, what, where, why, and how. People will talk, let them talk. Ask who, what, where, why, when, and how questions. They will talk. Do not solve problems during the session. Do not make things up on the spot. Do not make things up on the spot. We have a script. Follow the script. Have them verbalize what they want. Of course we do that. Let them know you get back to the solution. Isn't that when we do the first meeting? We just started out this whole hour conversation with this, which is at the top of the hour, saying that we introduced the 21-point checklist by saying what? We're simply here to find out what you like and don't like. There are no solutions at this beginning. Because until I know what you like or don't like, I wouldn't know what to go research or what solutions to find. I'm not going to try to find solutions for something you like. I'm going to wait till you tell me what you don't like, and that's where I'm going to start to invest my time to come up with better solutions. So let them know you'll be back with a solution. And when I say let them know you'll be back, no. Let them tell you that you're going to be back and why that's so important. Summarize information for presentation. So how do we summarize the 21-point checklist, guys? How do we summarize the 21-point checklist? Well, when I get to number 21, what do? Then I move from 21 and go backwards to 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. I have them tell me all the reasons that guy is taking advantage of them. So the secret to closing sale is not to close the sale. Guys, I can't close the door. That's why I was making $50,000 a year. Even the years that I've figured out how to market and got in front of 301 people, 101 case analysis, 34 million, I only brought in 800,000. Why? Because I can't close the door. I cannot ask for the deal. I can't. I just mentally, psychologically, emotionally, I cannot ask for the deal. So I created a system where they tell me they want the deal. They close themselves. And that actually works a lot better. Requires more work, requires more skill, yes, but they never back out. They never back out when they close themselves. Then afterwards, send a summary and action steps. We have a whole process, guys, that when they close the deal, you have a welcome kit. Get that out there. You have a letter that goes to the accountant, goes to their attorney. Why do you want to send that letter to the accountant, guys? Why do you send that letter to the accountant? As soon as they become a client, why do you send the letter that we give you to the accountant? And if you don't know that we do that, go and look at how you bring on a client. We have it all on the website. We send out a note to the client saying, or to the accountant saying, hey, Jim Bob and Mary Sue just became clients of ours, and I know they're clients of yours. They spoke very highly of you, Mr. or Mrs. Accountant. And I wanted to introduce myself to let you know that if you have any questions during tax season, if you need any additional information, Mary Sue and Jim Bob said that I should work very closely with you to make sure you get all of the information you need. I'm going to do that. When the accountant gets that letter, a couple of things happen. Number one, you're complimenting them. You're saying, Jim Bob, Mary Sue said you're a great accountant. I've heard good things about you as well, blah, blah, blah. So you're setting the stage that this guy's going to like you because you're already complimenting how great they are. And then you're saying, I'm going to help you when you're under a time crush because of tax season with any information you need. So that's one thing it does. So the client, the accountant isn't going to say to the people, why should you move to him? You're fine where you're at. Guys, yes or no to this. Do accountants F up deals? Do accountants that have no vested interest? They're not even advisors. You would think they have no skin in the game because they're not making any money on that client's investment. Do they F up deals? Yay or nay? Y or N? Have you ever had a deal effed up by an accountant because he just said, well, why don't you just stay there? And why are you making the change? Wow, I guess you guys are either in great territory or didn't have the kind of accountant that most of the other advisors I've talked to have had. Because accountants do that all the time. Because accountants are what? They are risk averse. So they're going to say, you've done so well for the last 10 years. Why are you moving at this point? And who is the most trusted professional out there? Even higher than a doctor. If you look at all the surveys, what profession is the most trusted profession? Accountant. People trust their accountant. So you want that person on your side. So send a summary to your client. Send a welcome letter to their accountant as well. Communicate progress. We have, again, on how to onboard a client, the process for doing this. If you're moving money, does it move instantly? No. Sometimes it'll take weeks. You need to be contacting the client at least on a weekly basis, even if nothing has occurred, to let them know that you're on it. You realize here's what's occurred, here's what's not occurred. If nothing's occurred, here's why nothing has occurred. You need to be, because are they nervous moving? Yes. And then when they move the money, sign the paperwork, and they don't hear anything, they get really nervous. And people get really nervous do what? They change their mind. And you know darn well the person who has the money right now is going to do everything to delay this in the hope that they will change their minds and stay with them. So you need to stay on. We have systems for you to communicate with them on a weekly basis. It doesn't take a lot of time and effort. You took all that time and effort to find the client, have the client decide to move their money to you. Why not spend just a couple of minutes every week communicating with them so they don't change their mind? Okay? So go on there and learn how to, if you're not using our system to onboard a client, go learn that. It's very simple and easy. So was this helpful to you guys? So I didn't really give you any new information. I'm explaining that what we do, that you do not have to get here. The advantage you have is you do not need to go out and build a system. It's been proven by science and it's been proven by research. We built it for you. Took me, again, a couple of years on my part, a couple of years working with guys, and we've been using it ever since for 25 years, and it still works as good today as it did back then. You close 100% of people, not because you close them, they close themselves. So please use the system. Please learn the scripts. Please do the most important 15 minutes of the day drill. Those things will make you all the money in the world. So hopefully, occasionally I like to go ahead and show you that what we're doing here might seem weird. It's not. It's all based on science. It's all based on research and study. Make sense? Awesome. Then you guys have a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.